I'm being joined by one of a very special guest that's been on the show before. He's now at Syracuse now, and he's going to be one of the top players in the entire country this upcoming season. That's JJ Starling. JJ, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Of course, happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. So we got to get right into this because, like I said, it was just almost about 3 years since the last time we were on here. And at that point, you were getting ready to go out to Notre Dame, and you were just a few weeks out from that point. Now you're obviously at Syracuse. You're back home. What's it just like being right now in the situation you're at?
It's great. I had, like you said, I spent my freshman year at Notre Dame, and then I transferred to Cuse, and I had a great year last year. I played with great guys, and I'm looking forward to this season because I have another great group of guys that I get to play with. I get to learn and grow with, so I'm excited about it.
So I just got to ask you first and foremost, though, because you are back home, and that's a rare situation where you get to go be a hometown hero, especially the place that literally you were born at. What has it just been like now being back home and being able to literally be that hometown hero?
Oh, it's been great. The support is out of this world. Last season, I started out the season a little shaky, not like myself, but the fans were still behind me. They're still supporting me, and then it allowed me to really gain confidence and believe in myself again and find who I am as a player. And it just took off from there, and then I just saw the support grow. And you can't beat playing in front of your family. Your mom, your dad, your sisters. So it's just been great.
So I got to ask you because we were talking about your recruiting because it was right after you commit to Notre Dame that you came on the show, and you had Syracuse originally in that top group. Now I don't know exactly where they finished at that point in time, but if we were to revisit just that high school process, what was it about that? What was it about Notre Dame at that point in time that you preferred them as opposed to Syracuse at that time?
Yeah, I loved what Coach Bray was doing with the guys. I felt like it was going to be a great fit for me. Prior to me going there, they made the tournament, and one of my good friends, Blake Wesley, he played for them. He was a freshman as well, and he had a great year. So, I felt like I could go into the same situation, and perform at that same level. And Coach Bray gave me that opportunity, so it was best decision for me.
Well, I do want to kind of go into that first season for yourself in college because you go out there and obviously it was a pretty solid overall year. Your ACC all first freshman team there, and you had a pretty good season. Would you say that year went as you had planned? Was it a little bit of a mixture ups and downs, or how would you kind of rate your first year in college?
Yeah, it didn't go as planned at all.
Yeah.
There, like you said, there was a bunch of ups and downs. Battling some little tweaks, some little injuries or whatever. So it was definitely a learning curve for me. But I'm glad I went through it. I had a great group of guys with me, that picked me up when I was, going through those downs. And it just helped me grow as a player and as a person. So.
So when you talk about Coach Bray, what was that relationship like? And I know obviously at the time you were super close to him when we last talked, and it was a great recruiting process while you went out there. What was it like playing for him that one year?
Yeah, it was great. Even though we had a shaky year, he still pushed me as an individual player. He challenged me, really held me to like a high standard. At first, I wasn't used to it. I was only 18 years old.
Yeah.
But he pushed me to to where I am today. He just inspired me to work harder, and just believe in myself at all times. So.
What would you say was the biggest thing that you say you learned from that first year in college?
That everything is not gonna go according to your plan. It's just God's plan.
Mhm.
Going into my freshman year of college, I had my mind set up on where I wanted to be as a player and what I wanted to do. But it doesn't go as a straight path. Everybody has their own path, their own journey, and I learned that. So I had to learn to battle through the obstacles and the ups and downs and learn how to fight through adversity. So it got me to where I am today.
Now, I do know you also are a believer, so I want to ask you about that aspect because anyone that obviously is a member of God and knows it is part of his family, that's obviously a huge relying. He's going to be able to be your cornerstone, the one that you can stand upon and live as your firm foundation. How has that helped to transform you? Because, like you said, not only were there probably ups and downs your first year, but also last year, you started off in a slump, and then you obviously had a great ending of the season. But
Right.
just those ups and downs of life as well. How does he help you get through those times?
Man, there's no other like him. Obviously you can rely on your family, your friends, but he's the one that's gonna pull you through those tough times. And I had to learn that. I had to lean on my faith. It was a lot of prayer last year, a lot of, because I was going through some times where I was down on myself. And I just prayed to him just to give me clarity, just give me confidence in who I am as a person and believe in the work that I put in. And as soon as I started having faith and not relying on my own understanding, that's when I started to see growth in my game and off the court. So, it just now I'm doing that at an earlier stage. Even before the season starts, I'm making sure I'm praying and stuff like that, making sure I have a good head on my shoulders. So, yeah, I'll definitely say help me be successful.
So I know you always have been a believer at least for a very long time now. Would you say that has obviously everyone wants to grow in their faith and you want to get closer to Jesus each and every single day? But
Mhm.
was there a certain time that you reflect back on, whether that be your freshman year, maybe even high school years, whatever it might have been, that you really had that time in life where you said, okay, I really want to take this next step of faith, and you really
Mhm.
started to invest in that relationship with Jesus?
Yeah, I would say, going off to college, I was on my own, so I had to lean on my faith and really rely on him. But also when I battled an injury my freshman year, I kind of had the mindset like, why now? But then as soon as I prayed, I gained clarity, and it just allowed me to get the mindset that this is not the end of the world. I'm
Mhm.
still only, at the time I was only 18, 19 years old, and I
Yeah.
still had a lot of time to grow. And it just was another way of God slowing me down and just believing in his plan rather than me having my own.
So now you go through that first season, and then they have the kind of the awkward parting with Mike Bray, and that kind of was an up and down situation, I'm sure. And I'm sure you guys probably had a little bit more clarity in the locker room when all was going down.
Mhm.
But I have to ask you though, because like I said, I know you guys had a pretty close relationship. I don't know how that ended per se,
Mhm.
but how would you say, like, if Coach Bray were to still be the Notre Dame coach and nothing ever happened, was
Mhm.
Notre Dame a school that you still saw yourself playing at, or was the moving on of Mike Bray something that you said, okay, I want to reevaluate things, and obviously decided to then go to Syracuse?
Yeah, like I said before, Notre Dame was a great school,
Hmm.
a great place for me to grow. But at the end of the day, I needed to do what was best for me. So that was moving on, from
Sure.
Notre Dame and finding a new place and opportunity to grow as a person and as a player. But don't get me wrong, I'm still in touch with, those Notre Dame guys. The coaching staff, the players, and Coach Brady still checks in on me, from time to time. So.
So what's your guys' relationship like then? 'Cause that's obviously cool to hear. I mean, a lot of guys know that coaches could just move on. That's how some coaches unfortunately are in this world. But to have that guy that, even though you guys have gone your own separate ways now, still checks in on you. Where's your guys' relationship at today? And just what's it like still having him in your life?
Yeah, it's a really good relationship.
Hmm.
We went through our ups and downs, but he, as soon as I started, doing good, he shoot me over a text and say, "I'm proud of you, kid. I see what you're doing. Just keep going, keep working hard." So those little texts like that matter, especially after the season that we had. It didn't go how it was supposed to go for either one of us. But he still checks in on me and he still keeps in touch.
All right, so when you're in the transfer portal, then you obviously go in there and you're regarded as one of the top transfer portal players. You were obviously top three in pretty much every single site, and you
Mhm.
have your list of schools to choose from once again. And we know where you end up going. And it was actually pretty quick overall too. I mean, you went to Syracuse in the first few weeks or whatever it was. What was it at that point? Because this was ultimately a new decision for yourself. It kind of was a little bit of an uncertain boundary because obviously Coach Boeheim's gone. It's a new era of Syracuse basketball. What was it about Syracuse that won you over originally at that point in time?
Yeah, at that point in time, I found out Coach Autry was getting the job, and Coach Autry was a person that I'm familiar with. He
Mhm.
recruited me out of high school. I was really close with him growing up because of his son Trey. So I knew what that relationship was already like. So that's why the decision was pretty easy for me. So I wasn't in the portal for a long time. I
Mhm.
believed in Coach Red. I believed what he was trying to build here. So I wanted to be a part of that.
How big of a factor also was it just being able to go closer to home now and be like we talked about earlier, that hometown hero?
hmm I wouldn't say that wasn't like a big part for me. Obviously
Mhm.
that's a bonus, but at the end of the day, I wanted to go where it was best for me, the best fit.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I still have dreams and I still have, that passion to continue to grow as a player. And Syracuse just happened to be the best spot for me.
So I do want to break down Coach Autry because it is a new era now. Year one's in the books, and this is a cool kind of moment because you personally are always going to be remembered as the guy that helped transform this program from one era to another. Because it's not even just a coach that's there for a few years, had a couple good seasons. We're talking about one of the greatest coaches of all time, and that's big shoes to fill for any coach out there. And Coach Autry obviously had a great start to that so far. And you being one of the first core pieces of helping this new transition occur, what's it just been like, kind of soaking that part in?
Yeah, it's definitely been a steady process for me. Just revisiting what I said earlier, I had a shaky start to the season, but Coach Red, he believed in me. He
Mhm.
would pull me into his office, have those talks with me, and just reassure me that he believes in me as a player, and that that's what I need, and that's what any player needs. When they're looking for like a really good coach. So, just being part of what he's building here and that winning season that we had last year, it was just great. So now I'm just looking forward to continue to build upon that.
So we got to get into Coach Red a little bit more then. So him as a person now, not even talking about him on playing X's and O's and practice, whatever case may be. We're talking off the court. What's your guys'
Mhm.
relationship like there?
Yeah, it's as great as can be. Just a couple weeks ago, we went bowling as a team, and we ended up playing a bowling game 2-on-2. With, the two coaches versus me and one other player. But our bond is really strong. I feel like I can go to him whenever I need advice or just anything. The bond is definitely there.
And so now, when you talk about on the court now, and this year we're going to talk about it a little bit more in a second, that you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot more, but still, you've always been the guard even last season. You and Judah kind of split that role. How
Mhm.
big has your bond and relationship been, and how have you seen it grow as well throughout the duration of year one together?
Yeah, he's really challenging me. Last year, he challenged me a lot, but this year especially, he's holding me to even higher standard. And I'm willing to accept that. I wanna, as I said before, I want to be the best player that I can be, and he's really helping me shape into that. Just pushing me every day, just making sure I'm not taking any plays off, and just like I said, holding me to a higher standard. So things that I might feel that aren't a big deal, he's really going to push me and make me hone in on the little details.
When you look through the first year together, and maybe even it's this off season now, would you say there's a moment you kind of look at and you say, you know what, I feel like we started to click there? Because I'm sure it develops chemistry between a coach and a player. When would you
Mhm.
say you guys started to click, or has it even necessarily happened to the extent that you think it could possibly occur this year?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I would say we clicked, early on, well, towards the middle of the season last year, but
Hmm.
really going into this year, just given the fact that he knows the player that I can be, and he wants to push me into that, and he wants me to play like a role into what he's trying to build. We had, like I said, we have great players coming in this year, and I was gonna have like a bigger role than I had last year, so. Yeah, I feel like we started to get on the same page as to what we're trying to do here.
All right, so now we got to talk about a little bit more about Coach Autry. The last thing I want to get a touch up on about him is that you now talk about just him as a coach, as a person now, and him carrying this program into the future. How good is he going to be, do you think? And how excited should Syracuse fans be for what he's going to do in the future?
Yeah, I feel like Syracuse fans should be very excited about what he's building here. He's big on culture, on and off the court. He holds us to a high standard both in the classroom and on the court. So he's recruiting high level guys. That's really going to buy into that winning, pedigree. So I feel like it's going to be an exciting time while he's under reins here at Syracuse.
So I do want to go into last season a little bit more for yourself because, as we've already talked about a few different times, the first beginning portions of the season were not obviously the best. You were in a little bit of a slump there, but something
Mhm.
all of a sudden clicked because you go from January 16th to March 5th, which is right before the ACC tournament, without having a game underneath 10 points. You had
Mhm.
some of these massive games. Obviously, we look at the UNC game. We look at a couple other massive outings you had for yourself. But
Mhm.
what clicked then? What all of a sudden? What kind of flipped the switch for yourself leading into that January 16 game where all of a sudden everything kind of came together for yourself?
One, my faith, and then two, just the ultimate belief on the amount of work that I put in.
Mhm.
Once obviously I was getting in the gym a lot that whole season, but once I actually started to believe in the work that I put in, that's when I started to reap the benefits on the court. And I stopped overthinking. I just started playing my game, and that's really what allowed me to be successful on the court.
Now, that's interesting because I know a lot of people, when they're just observing players or whatnot, they might just say he's in a slump and they might just discredit that for whatever the case may be. But you kind of
Mhm.
talk about something there. All along, you knew you did the work. It was a matter of actually realizing that you did it personally and kind of embracing that aspect. What was it about that kind of had, in a sense, the mental block you think that kind of, what was it about that you kind of decided and you finally figured it out and said, you know what, I am able to do this. I know I can go out there and produce because I've put in the work now.
Yeah, it was just me slowing down and just appreciating the moment. You know, obviously I was like I said, I was getting in the gym, but it's almost like I was just getting in the gym to get in the gym. But finally I started to, really take every rep for what it was. And after the workouts, I would reflect on how I shot or how I performed that workout. Did I try my best? Did I give 110%? And once I started doing that, that's when, everything just started to skyrocket. I started taking my workouts way more seriously, and it just translated onto the court.
So I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be for this next one, but when you look back at last year, all the games you guys played, which one was your favorite one?
um, I would probably. It's easy to go with the UNC one. That was a big one, obviously.
Mhm.
Just a big win for us as a team, just given the fact what they did to us the first time.
Mhm.
But from a personal standpoint, I would probably say the North Carolina State game at the Dome.
Mhm.
That was one of my hottest starts in college. You know, I rattled off like 10 straight, I think, and I was just in like the ultimate flow state. Like it was just
Mhm.
amazing. So yeah.
So the reason I want to ask you that is because, as I said, it's not just 2 or 3 games that you had some bright spots. We talked about going for almost 3 months there of having consistently being a great player. And if you kind of take those averages, obviously you're talking about being a player that makes an all conference team. And now you head into this season, and as you said, your role is going to expand. And we've already seen you have legitimate sustained success now at Syracuse. Is that something that we can kind of expect now heading into year 3 for yourself in college?
Yeah, for sure. I want to start right from the jump rather than
Mhm.
having a slow start like I did last year. But at the end of the day, I just want to win. So I want to be able to make winning plays. I want to be able to play both ends of the court, and just do whatever it takes to win and play the best role for my team.
All right. So when we look at next season for yourself, do you have any goals specifically for yourself as a team? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, just individually, I just want to grow each and every day, whether it's showing in practice or game by game. And then obviously as a team, I want to be able to make the tournament because I feel like we have the pieces and the team to do so.
And when you look at your game as a whole, because you obviously are a guy who said that I would not be shocked to see you make an all ACC team next season. You have the potential to have a massive breakout season beyond that, and maybe make an all American team. Like that's the kind of guy people are kind of keying in on you now for this upcoming year. Do you feel like there's any more pressure on yourself as you head into this year, knowing that there is expectation now, and knowing that a lot of people are kind of looking at you and saying, you know what, this might be, if not the leader of the team, maybe even like the face of the team this year.
Right. For me, there's no pressure.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, I'm gonna stay true to who I am, and I can't rely on any outside noise because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's putting the work in. I'm the one that's competing on the court. So, if any pressure is coming from anywhere, it's gonna be myself. Just holding myself to a different standard than I've ever held myself to before. But I feel like that's a good thing for me because it's gonna allow me to grow and really decide the person and the player I want to be.
So we do have to get into this team though, because from year 1 into year 2, this roster is looking a lot different. There's been a lot of changes here now, and I do want to get into that for yourself because you look at this team and you formed a great backcourt with Judah Mintz last year. He's obviously moving on. Copeland obviously decided to transfer out, and that goes on with a whole lot of other guys. You talk about Malik's obviously gone, Justin, Benny, etc. When you talk about those guys and having kind of a max exodus, and I know it's not something that's only happened at Syracuse, that happened at schools all across the country now in today's era. Is that something that you guys are going more towards the end of the season that you kind of expected to have happen? Was it shocking for yourself? Or how as a team did you kind of expect that all to unfold when the portal opened up?
Yeah, like you said, it's a different era of basketball. You know, anybody can
Mhm.
leave at any time to chase the opportunity that's best for them. But at the end of the day, like those are still my guys, so it was a bit like shocking a little bit.
Sure.
Just because I love playing with those guys, and they meant a lot to me. But at the end of the day, they went to an opportunity that was best for them, and it gave room for new guys to come in and just help reshape this team.
So when you are a player, and that's a lot of transition going on, because like you said, these are your guys. These are guys you just went to war with for an entire season. And talk about you just specifically, I want to say, because obviously being a backcourt, you guys share the ball together. You guys a lot of the time are just spent time together. And he didn't transfer. Obviously, he went obviously pro. But when you're just sitting there, and you're like, okay, well, this guy's gone now. This guy's gone. It's almost kind of like it's a little bit lonely for a little bit until you get the new guys in there. What's going through your mind? Are you starting to look at saying, you know what, is possibly transferring an option for myself? Do
Mhm.
I? What do I do? Like, how do you? What kind of goes through your mind those times?
Yeah, I remember like it was definitely like somewhat of a sad time a little bit. Just
Sure.
how to know, my guys were leaving, but at the end of the day, I just kept my head down and I remember I just started working even harder. I just wanted to focus on me becoming that player that I know I can be. And so I didn't look at it in any ill intent or whatever that these guys were leaving. At the end of the day, I just took it as a way to grow as a player, and to work on my game.
And it's not only that. Obviously, Coach Jerry decided to move on. He got the head coaching job at Siena, and he had a clip just a few weeks ago I saw on a podcast where he was obviously talking about the conversation you two have with each other. I'm sure that's also difficult because the thing that I know not all fans are well aware of is that you obviously love the head coach. You guys are close there, but they're typically not the guys that recruit you from the get go. It's a lot of guys, assistant coach, you spend a lot more time with, and he obviously was a guy you spent a lot of time with. What impact did that have on yourself when that ended up happening on top of all the transitions happening with the roster?
Yeah, it was like I said, it was a crazy moment for me. It felt like everything was not falling apart, but I guess in a
Yeah.
sense, just because I transferred from one school and then here I am having to go through a whole nother team again. But at the end of the day, I had my 1 or 2 days where I thought about it and was a little sad by it, but then I just changed my mindset and just became happy for everybody that had the opportunity to leave, especially Coach GMAC. I know he wanted to become a coach, for a head coach for a long time, and obviously Siena provided that opportunity. So, who am I to be mad at him making the best decision for him and his family when I did the same thing, a year or two ago?
And I saw there was some rumblings when I was trying to go back through Twitter and put these notes together and whatnot. And some people were saying that they were skeptic if as to whether or not you're going to return to Syracuse. Was that ever something that was on the table for yourself? Did you ever even consider entering the portal, talk to your family, think about it for any point in time, or was that always off the table?
Um, I mean, like I said, I believed in what Red was doing here. Obviously, as a player, you gotta try and do what's best for you. So sometimes you do weigh in those things, but
Sure.
um, nah, not really. I believe that, like I said, I believe in what Coach Red was doing here, and I knew he was gonna bring in some really good players. So I just bought into what he was trying to do.
And so just like that, then you go from being the new guy, just your first year there, to now being the veteran of the team, the guy that has pretty much more experience than just about anybody on the roster. How does you flip as that perspective now from going, like I said, being the guy trying to learn the culture, learn this new environment, to now being the guy that implements it and teaches it to all the new guys coming in?
It's not like a crazy transition.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Red and all the coaches last year, they kind of had me, they wanted me to be a leader, on the court, as well. So it just carried on into this year. So it's not much of like a different role in terms of like leadership. But yeah, these guys, like I said, they bought into what we're trying to do. So it's not even, it's almost like everybody's being a leader in a way.
Okay.
We're holding each other to a high standard. We're competing, and we're just pushing each other to get better every day.
All right, so let's break down this year's team now, because you guys start off. I gotta go into the freshman guys coming in. You have Donnie Freeman, who is a guy that could easily be a top 10 pick next year, at least the way that the media can observe him, what he's done in his high school career. You talk about him. You talk about Elijah Moore coming in, is also a highly regarded freshman. How are the freshmen so far as looking as you guys have gone through the summer program?
Oh, they're looking strong. They came in and it didn't take long for them to adapt to the college game. They're competing, they're getting better every day, and they're both guys that's willing to work. They put in the work every day. They're willing to get better. They're listening. So they're going to be really good guys for us. Good pieces moving forward.
So before I go into a couple other guys specifically, now you just look at the team as a whole and where you guys are at this point of the offseason. How excited are you for this upcoming season as a team?
I'm very excited. Obviously, we still have some things that we're trying to clean up, but
Sure.
as far as like chemistry and everybody buying, I feel like we've done that for the most part. We're clicking on cylinders that's somewhat unexpected. At a time like this, we're still kind of early in the early stages, but it's hard to really put a value on it since we haven't played a game. But I feel like we're in a pretty good spot, so I'm excited moving forward.
So if you were to go and compare where this team stands today on September 19th compared to last year's team on September 19th, how much better, the same, worse would you say you guys are in comparison to the two different teams?
Well, it's two different teams, so
Hmm.
like the pieces were different.
Sure.
So I wouldn't really compare the two, but like I said, I'm just excited at where we are right now with this team, and the pieces that we have, because I know that on paper, people are probably doubting us and what we can do, but just like last year, I feel like we can make a lot of noise and really shock some people.
So I got to ask you about another guy specifically because, from a natural perspective, I feel like he's going under the radar. From Syracuse fans, I know they're well aware of him. That's Chance Westry, who came out of high school, top ranked recruit, decided to transfer to Syracuse, and obviously had his injuries and wasn't able to play much. So he's now should be healthy, at least from what we know about. How excited are you for him, and how is he looking so far in his comeback?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've played against Chance before, so I know what he's
Mhm.
capable of doing on the court. And he's been keep competing. Pushing guys and just looking to get better. So
And I also look at the big man additions to this team. We already talked about Donnie a little bit, but then you talk about Eddie Lampkin coming in. You talk about having just a lot of other pieces in Jair now at the four that's going to be able to play. Having these other guys that are interchangeable big men and a lot more depth, I'd say, overall at big man. How big is that going to be? Joining already Naheem and those other guys that's going to be there as well.
oh, it's big time. He's Eddie is a mobile big that can pass, can shoot, and he competes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that that we need. Obviously, we have Naheem. He competes and stuff like that. But having Eddie to push Naheem in practice and really sharpen each other, it's great. And then, like you said, Jair, he's really good fit for us too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to what he's going to do in the season too.
So then we also have a couple of guys I want to get into. A guy that's going to be joining you in your backcourt now, Jaquan, who's transferring in now as well. What's it been like getting him? Because he's now the veteran guy as well. He's been in college for a while now. He knows the ropes. What's it been like being able to also learn from him, but also kind of get ready to form that duo as well?
Yeah, it's been great. Straight from the get go, he's came in and he's competed. We actually been guarding each other for the most part, so
Okay.
we're pushing each other every day. We're competing, and that's somebody that I'm really looking forward to getting to play with. He's a selfless player. Really looking forward to getting players involved, but he's again a guy that's under the radar for his scoring ability. He's a good playmaker, but at the end of the day, he can score the ball as well.
And then two other guys I also want to touch up on here is two guys can be returning, coming back to play with you guys again. That's Chris, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the country. He had some great outings last season, but I think he gets swept underneath the radar a little bit too. And then you also have Kyle coming back as well. Talk about those two guys and just having that continual bond growing with those guys.
Yeah, it's great. Chris, obviously, I feel like he's the best shooter in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just continued to work on that each and every day, in practice, he's competing. And I feel like he's starting to buy in on what he can do defensively as well. He's a 6'8" wing that he can move, he's fast, he has all the bounce in the world. So like he's really honing in on what he's capable of doing. And same thing with Kyle. He's coming in off a season. He performed pretty well last year, and he's just looking forward to getting better. He's competing every day, and he's in the gym every day. So
So then we obviously got to talk about one other guy, and that's yourself personally now. And we hinted at a little bit ago that the expectation, at least from the outside looking in, is that you're going to have the ball in your hands a little bit more. Go back to more so what we looked at and saw you doing at the high school level. What can we expect from you now as you've kind of developed this next role or readjusted this new role again? How excited are you personally to be able to kind of get back to where you were at and the role you played in high school?
I'm so excited. Just getting back to the ultimate confident player and person that I was, coming out of high school, having that mentality that nobody between those lines can really, do anything with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's the mindset that I need to have, just the ultimate confidence. Because I feel like when I have that, that's when I'm playing at my best. I'm not overthinking. I'm really just playing to the capabilities I'm playing at. Whether it's playmaking, scoring, defending, I want to be able to do all those things. rather than just focus on scoring.
All right, so I'm gonna take a couple different pieces that you've already said throughout the interview, but you talked about a little bit ago. I talked about Coach Red that you guys kind of started to click a little bit more so this offseason. That I'm assuming that probably happened more so when the portal stuff started happening and you were the kind of the top backcourt guy at the time remaining.
Mhm.
When did he kind of approach you and talk to you about saying, you know what, hey, I see this as potentially being an opportunity where you're going to kind of get back to your high school self, and just how did that conversation go between you two?
Right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right away he came and had that talk with me because I feel like I had a really good spring. I shot the ball well, I defended, and he had those talks. He pulled me to the side. He said, "Look, I see the work that you're putting in, and you're really getting back to your old self. And just keep building on that." So that's what I've been doing from that day.
Just kind of talking to you, I feel like I can tell that there is kind of that old JJ back a little bit more. It feels like the overall confidence in yourself is there. Would you say that's an accurate statement? Do you feel like this is probably the most confident you've been in yourself as a player, as a person, since you've entered the college realm?
Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. And then that just goes hand in hand with the amount of work I've been putting in. This is the easiest to say that this is the hardest I worked since I've been in college. I'm getting up early in the morning, getting shots up with the managers. I'm doing extra after practice. I'm getting in at night again. Like I'm watching film. It's easy to say that this is the hardest that I've been working, and that's why I'm able to say that I have a lot of confidence.
So what switched the mentality wise then? What was it about either the last season, at some point during last season, right after the season that it kind of clicked and you said, you know what, it's time to turn this up a little bit more. I know I'm capable of doing a lot more. I'm gonna put the work in so that I can show that when it gets time to the college season again.
Yeah, like you said, I just it just clicked in my head that I wasn't doing enough.
Mm.
How I feel as a player, like I felt like I could do more. I feel like I wasn't playing to my best at times, whether it's offensively or defensively. And once that clicked, that's when I was like, okay, I need to do more. And what steps can I take in order to do more? So.
So when would you say that ended up happening? Was that right after the season, sometime during the off season, middle of last year, or when do you say that kind of started clicking for yourself?
Definitely like from the middle of the season last year to like the off season this year.
Okay.
For sure. I started getting extra reps in the weight room and extra workouts. So
And now I know that when I went back and listened to part of our old interview that we did before, obviously the goal in your mind to some extent was, NBA is something that you would like to pursue. I know it's everybody's dream. And you entered the NBA draft and you withdrew from it a year ago. But when you talk about that, I'm sure that still is your aspiration. You want to be in the NBA at some point in time. How does that kind of go through your mind? Because if you start having a great season overall, there's going to start being people talking about that potentially. How do you stay locked in and just make sure that might be the goal, that might be the dream, but that's what you're working towards, but to stay locked in at the moment?
right, yeah. I feel like for me right now, I changed my mindset of like chasing the NBA and just like instead just being in the moment. The NBA is going to come whenever it comes. As long as I continue to put my best foot forward, as long as I continue to be the best person I can be and continue to work hard, that's when I'm going to be able to, hey, finally think about ultimately pursuing my dream. But as far as like right now, I don't want to think about it too much. Obviously that's been a dream of mine since a kid, but I just want to focus on you know building my confidence and working hard so that I'm ready whenever that time comes.
Absolutely, man. We got a couple more things before I let you go. One of which is in regards to NIL, because when you first came on, once again, that was just something that was brand new and it wasn't necessarily something that was being talked about much. And I know it's changing by the minute almost now. When you talk about the NIL landscape and how it's just changing college basketball, what's it been like being a part of this era, literally living in the moment?
Yeah, it's obviously it has its ups and downs, but um, I'm glad to be a part of this era to where players can finally make money off their name. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones putting in the work and competing every day, and to be able to make money off the hard work that you put in, it's really a blessing. So I'm really blessed to be able to be part of that.
And I know that you guys probably don't have a full clarity yet on how it's going to look like, and a lot of coaches are still trying to figure it out. But January 1st, it's going to be the shared revenue is going to start going to play now. How excited are you for that overall when that starts to kick in?
I'm very excited, as a player, obviously. So I'm excited and looking forward to that.
Now, there obviously is another side of that because now it's not just the college overall game, it has to bring the business side aspect to it as well. How have you learned to balance those two aspects and really kind of take on what for a long time would just wait till you become a pro player in the NBA, whatever the case might be? Now, as you're only an 18-year-old guys, 19, 20-year-old guys having to deal with the business aspect of it, how has that changed and how have you learned to deal with that?
For me, I feel like it's always been a business,
Hmm,
not necessarily like money wise, but it became a business when I had to choose the best fit for me. Whether where I was going to go play college basketball. Now money is involved, but it doesn't change the goal.
sure.
The goal of mine, the goal of the team. So I feel like as long as players have that mindset that they're keeping basketball the main thing, then everything is just going to take care of itself and fall into place.
Absolutely, man. Well, I got one final question for you. The one question I was like wrapping up each interview with, and that's talking about your legacy because we've talked about it a few different times now. You're especially being the hometown guy, being a guy that you're playing at Syracuse, being home. When you do move on from Syracuse, whether that be after this season, that be after their senior year, whatever the case might be, what is that you want to be remembered for what you brought to this program on and off the court?
I want people to have in their minds that each and every day I competed no matter what. I pushed through whatever I was going through, and I gave 110% no matter what the day was. And I want to be looked at as the hardest worker, easily. So, I'm going to continue to do my part, so that happens.
Absolutely, man. Well, JJ, I appreciate you taking time to come on today. It's always a blessing and pleasure having you on here, man. I can't wait to see what God's got in store for you this upcoming year, man.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Absolutely, man. God bless you too, man.